Using reference material for design inspiration is a great way to get started sometimes, whether it's a typeface or a color or a layout. Using something as an initial spark is just kind of a good way to get the wheels rolling. You just have to be mindful not to rip off the thing that you're inspired by. So copying a masterful design pixel by pixel, it definitely exposes you to design decisions that you wouldn't have made on your own. You know, there's a big difference between learning how someone made something exist and then trying to reproduce that on your own and say, look what I did. It'll be tempting, and if you focus too much on other people's work, it'll be hard to imagine that design happening in any other particular way. So as a rule of thumb, you really only want to copy or use inspiration from just like one aspect, whether it's typography or color or layout, one little thing that you can lift as inspiration from someone else's project or some other design, and then use that in a new way for your own project. But sometimes one thing isn't even worth taking because that one thing is so synonymous with the existing product. Like if you look at Stripe.com, you know, this angle right here and these kind of white devices and this blue, dark purple, blue gradient, you know, that's really synonymous with Stripe, and they're known for great design, but all of that, the angled background and everything has been copied a lot, and it's hard to pass off that particular design decision as your own. So sometimes it's just not even worth lifting anything when it's so synonymous with another brand. So you really want to stay above board in what you try to pass off as your own. Make sure it is your own design work, because your reputation is going to get tarnished if you're caught doing this, especially in this world of online tweets and posts where things go quite rapidly throughout the internet. Hopefully you have a strong enough internal compass to know that stealing is wrong. So here are some steps that I use for finding and using design inspiration. Sometimes you can just make a list of things that you like about the design and don't look at it again. So for Stripe.com, for example, you might say purple to light blue gradient. Just list it out and say that only, you know, as a background image. Maybe it's a green call to action. Maybe it could be diagonal backgrounds, but again, I would stay clear from that. You know, you might say circular icons combined with the headers. You know, subtle light gray background dividers. Purple links. But again, I wouldn't take more than one of these things as inspiration, as something that I'm actually going to use in my project. And especially for something like Stripe.com, I would not lift much of it at all, really, because it's just really synonymous with the design that a lot of people have copied. So I want to show you a couple of examples where I have specifically gone in and stolen one individual thing and used it for one of my projects. So for this example, I want to show you a desktop app that I made called Cinesampler. So at the time I was checking out this service called Yalla.social and checking out the menu, and I saw this little flyout menu with this dark background and these purple hover states, purple call to actions, and I just really loved the way that combination looked. I don't know, something about the dark background and that purple and the white text. I really love that. So when I was designing my app, this desktop app called Cinesampler, I lifted that hex code or something close to it, and the idea of this dark background with that really nice light purple and the white call to action text. So you can see on a lot of these, I'm using that purple color on the black background. It's not full black, but it's kind of like a 0F0F13. It's kind of a darker color, but you get the idea. It's kind of a dark background with that purple color. And I just took that one thing, that one hex code, and that idea of purple on a dark background. But I don't think anybody is going to look at this and think, oh my gosh, Matt totally ripped off Yalla Social for his Cinesampler app. There's a lot of different design decisions that have nothing to do with that app, but it's just one example of where I was inspired by one particular piece of UI and then kind of appropriated that for my own project. Now, another example is the Streamline Icons website. First, I was trying to find a really nice typeface because we wanted this website to almost feel like a type specimen web page. So as I was searching for typefaces, I came across this typeface called Airabo Grotesque. And it's just kind of a fun, grotesque typeface, and I really liked it. And I also just kind of really loved the teal color as well. So I bought the typeface, bought the family, and I took a screenshot of that particular teal because, again, I really liked it. And the guy I was working with, Vincent Lemoyne, he also really loved the color, and we wanted kind of this really clean, fresh look. So I took the color, I used the typeface, and started working on some of these designs. So I'm using that color, maybe a slightly darker color with the icon. So that was kind of the accent website color, or the accent color for the website. Another inspiration that I took for this particular project was from the Apple Watch OS webpage. You can see that there's a title over here, and then as you scroll, there's a background. These keep scrolling, and then you have a fun little navigation down here in the bottom left, and you can go between those two. It was just kind of a fun magazine style. It's not really scroll jacking or anything, and I just really liked it. So both Vincent and I were interested to see if we could apply that to our own project. So if you look at the Streamline website, you know, I definitely was inspired by the placement and the functionality of that particular navigation. So I put my navigation down here, and I coded it so each one of these would link to a different section. And so the header is going to stick as you scroll, and then when you get to the next section, so on and so forth. And another thing, since we wanted to kind of embody that type specimen website feel, I looked at another website that is one of my absolute favorites, fontshop.com. Go to any particular typeface family on the website, and they just have a really, really nice interactive page that you can get in here and explore the text and a lot of different fun little interactions. But one thing that I really like is this little themer down here they have where you can change the background to yellow, you can change the background to black, so you can see how the font interacts on different background colors. And since we were exploring this design almost like a type specimen and trying to treat it that way, that's another thing that I incorporated down here in the bottom right, was changing the background from this teal to black and seeing how each of the icons could work against different colored backgrounds. So if you look, I'm taking a color from the font website. I'm taking the kind of layout and functionality from the Apple Watch OS website, and I'm taking the color theme switcher from another website. So I'm lifting one specific feature from 3 different sites and mixing it all together, and definitely putting our own spin on these, you know, these big dividers with the animated icons. And, you know, we're using a full width layout instead of we're not copying every little detail. It's more of like the idea behind the inspiration. And all of these things come together to create something new on its own. So moving on from just lifting inspiration into straight up copy work, I want to show you an example of how to do some copy work. Let that expose you to other design decisions that were made by someone else that you might not necessarily have come across on your own. I've taken a screenshot of the iOS weather app, and I've got it here on my desktop. So I'm going to just drag it right here into Figma. These come in at 1125. So I usually just divide this by 3 in the width property panel to get it down to a 1x size. So if you go to the frames and you click iPhone 10, you can see that that's the same size. So I'm going to place this right here, and I'm going to hit the 2 key to make the opacity go to 20%. And I know that this is going to be San Francisco Pro, so I've got this selected already. And I'm just going to start filling it in. So I'm going to go Athens, bump this up until it's closer to the same size. It looks like it's right around 34 pixels, 34 points. This one's gonna be sunny. Once you do this enough for Apple interfaces, you'll start to see different type sizes that are pretty common. So 34 is a pretty common type size. This is probably 17 because that's another really common. This is, 34 divided by 2 is 17. And 73 degrees, if you hold option 0, you'll get the little degree marker. Not sure how big this is, maybe 100 points. And you can see that this is definitely not regular weight. It's probably like thin. I'm also going to make sure that these are center aligned. Okay. Now let's make this one day. I'm just option dragging a lot of this type to kind of copy it. This looks like it might be 20 points. So even if it's a little bit, it doesn't have to be exactly on. We're just kind of roughing it in. So today, let's probably 15. And you can definitely tell that that's bolder than the regular weight. It's probably like semi-bold or something like that. Taking our best guess. And it's really important to line up these. Even though these are different type sizes, you always want your baseline to be aligned. Baseline meaning this little line right in here underneath the letters. So we're going to go here, type in 78. This is probably 17 again. Oh, that actually, it might be a little more. It might be 20. And let's put that back at regular. I'm going to go right aligned with these because if you were to type in, 104, you would want the right alignment to be fixed instead of it kind of bleeding off to the left, or bleeding off to the right rather. So this is the low and the high. And then there's like a very tiny divider line. Looks like 0.25. Maybe 0.33 actually. And we'll do 100% width on that. Okay, that didn't work for some reason. Well, I know that it's 375. And I'm not really worried about the colors just yet. I'm just trying to get this all roughed in. This is going to be 15 maybe. Probably semi-bold again. Actually, 17. All right, so I'm just going to speed through this just to quickly show everything coming together. The PM here is a little smaller. Looks like they're doing 13 on the PM and 17 on the number. And I don't think that is going to be the bold weight or the semi-bold. These will be kind of centered. We'll do left align on that one, and then these will be centered. And I'm actually going to go ahead and do this. Looks like they've made the degrees a little bit larger, the 20 size. That one's 73. And it looks like that one was bold as well. You can always select the background and make it a little darker if you want. Okay, now I'm going to select both of these and option drag, and then I'll hit Command D a couple times to change it. Whoops. So that's going to be 3. That's going to be 4. You can see if I type a 4 right here, it's going to go, or if I backspace that 2, it's going to default to the 13. So you can either type the 4 and then delete the 2, or you can come over here and type the 4 first. It's just kind of a little nuanced thing. And 6 and oh, it's saying it says 6:40 because it's when the sun sets. Sunset. I'll move that over. And I will cover icons in another lesson, but might as well draw one of these. I'm just going to draw a little circle, hit the R key for a little rectangle, Option and drag this down here. And then if I select both of these and hit Command D, that'll make a copy, and then I can hover right around the edge and hold Shift while I rotate this. And then I'm going to, it looks like these are a little smaller, so I'm going to hit Return to access these control points and nudge them down and over. So I'm going to hit Command D while both of those are selected. Rotate that. Do this one more time, Command D, rotate that. And I will now select all of this. And I need to deselect the background image. And I'm going to click here and go Union Selection. And I'll make this black for now. That way I just have an icon to go off of. And now I can select all of these, deselect the background, and kind of tidy this up with this little option here. Well, let's do distribute horizontal spacing. There we go. And again, I know that some of this is getting off, so I'm not that worried about it right now. And let's take this line, let's make this line dark just so we can see it a little more easily. I'm going to copy this line, move it down to here. And now it looks like all of these are set at 20 regular. Tuesday. And we're just going to pretend like all of these days are going to be sunny. So I'm just going to copy my sunny icon. Looks like this is using the same size for degrees across the board, although they are not using the degree symbol. All right, so now that I have this particular one as one line item, I'm going to hit Command G to group it. Command R to rename the layer to, I'm just going to rename it to day for now. And I'm going to Option drag this entire group and then do Command D until I get all of them. Then I can go back and just retype. All right. And we can keep going to do the bottom part. This gives us an idea of how big these little circles are. Roughly 5 pixels here. I'm going to Option drag, Command D, Command D, Command D. And I'm going to draw a rectangle for this. I'm going to hit the 5 key and I'm going to hit Return so I can see these little points here. Move these down a bit. And then I'm going to put a little tiny radius on those 2 points. And actually move this down a bit. Might be too much, but let's do like a 0.5 radius. Move these points back a little bit. So it's not perfect, but it's close enough. And I could keep going and design this icon and grab the weather channel, but for now, that's good enough. So I'm gonna just duplicate this. And in this one, I'm going to group all of the information that is the user interface. And I'm gonna hide it and then bring this back up. And then I'm gonna delete the background on this one. And then for the background of the frame, I might just grab just any one of these blue colors here. And then select all of this and change the fill from black to white just so we can see it a little bit more. Just like I forgot to grab these dots. And if I really wanted to get in here, you know, I can see that these dots are probably like 50% opacity, maybe a little less, maybe 30%. And all of these numbers here are definitely, this is like showing the high and the low. So all of these numbers are going to be, I'm just kind of judging. It looks like probably 50%, maybe a little less. And same for this one. So I can do Command Option C, Command Option V to paste the properties there. So looking at this copying and kind of reproducing this iOS weather UI, this gives you an idea for, okay, the type size for a large number or a title at the top. It gives you an idea for the type size for a swipeable row of smaller items and kind of swipeable screens. It gives you an idea of the bottom collapsible icon that we didn't really design, but there's an icon back there that collapses the weather into different cities. And it kind of shows you like how to design on top of this blue background. And, you know, I wouldn't post this particular project to Dribbble because I'm just copying and practicing. But if I were creating another app that had something that I could lift from this and use these sizes, maybe there's another project where there is a large number that needs to be displayed, and I could use this as inspiration for using that number and using that amount of negative space around the top image. But again, I do want to be super clear. There's a big difference between doing copy work to learn and grow and then completely ripping off a design. So don't be a ripoff. Don't post this weather app and say, hey, look what I designed. Because if you look at something like this that you admire for too long, you will hardwire your brain into thinking that that is the only solution. So in these moments, if you're not doing copy work for practice and you're trying to get actual inspiration for your own project, put this away and design 3 additional versions beyond the thing that you were inspired by that ventures out into other possibilities. Because you might discover and accidentally stumble upon something that works even better for your project, especially for the parts that were closely copied. You don't want them to be so tied to the original reference. So for homework, I want you to pick 2 or 3 designs that you really like and screenshot them with Command-Shift-3 on the Mac or however you take screenshots. The same way we did with this iOS weather app. And I want you to pick one screen or one piece of it to copy exactly and see if you can really nail it down to be exact sizes, as close as you possibly can. And then design an additional component that would go along with that particular design. So you're trying to use that exact same style and design like an email capture form or like a headline and a paragraph and a call to action, like it would be an extension of that exact same app. So do that as a copy and then an extension. And then as the third thing, try to lift one thing like I did for the Cinesampler app or the Streamline website. Try to lift that one element and put that into practice into your own little component. Again, it can be something simple like an email capture form or something with just a few elements, like 3 or 4 elements, but try to make your own that has the inspiration, but it ventures far enough to where you feel good enough about posting that as your own design work. And if you don't feel good about, if you wouldn't feel good about posting the reference work and your design work and letting people see like this is what I was inspired by, then you've probably copied it too closely. So once you have all of your homework complete, post it in the Slack channel. Let us know if you've done something original and you're excited about it. Post it to Dribbble and get some feedback. Tag me in it. I will be happy to see what you've come up with. And as always, I'm here to help. So if you run into any problems along the way, just reach out and I'll get you sorted out.